Saeed's father thinks that something sketchy happens. He claims that he knows that they were about to get engaged. He even claims that that day over the phone, she told him she was pregnant. On August 31st of 1997, Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed died in a car crash together along with the driver of the car. There were so much paparazzi after the royal family, and especially after Diana was having this other relationship with this guy, Dodi, everyone wanted to know about it, so they were constantly being followed. So they were staying at the Ritz in Paris, and there was a ton of paparazzi following them that day. So they had made this plan that they were going to divert the paparazzi by having fake cars parked outside of the front of the hotel so that people would think Diana was going to come out at any second, when in reality they took the back door and they left that way. But apparently the paparazzi in the back were able to alert people in the front, and they were followed by a bunch of paparazzi. So this was what was first blamed for it, is that the paparazzi made them crash. Now what actually happened, they were driving and then they went into a tunnel, and that's where the crash actually happened. So the driver of the car, this is him, his name is Henri Paul. He died. Obviously Diana and Dodi died, and the bodyguard was seriously injured and he doesn't remember anything, so nobody knows what actually happened. And another interesting bit of information is none of them were wearing seatbelts, which was very odd to a lot of people because Diana was always in the back seat of cars wearing a seatbelt, and it was unusual for her to not be wearing one. The bodyguard, who doesn't remember, like I said, doesn't really remember much, but he does say he vaguely remembers Diana calling out for Dodi and moaning and crying. So she was like somewhat aware of what was going on. Another really strange bit of information is that the ambulance was ordered to stop by the doctor in the car because apparently her injuries were getting so bad the entrance to the hospital was in sight. After Princess Diana died, they actually embalmed her body like immediately, which was against the law. So no one got a chance to do a really thorough medical examination. So they were unable to determine if someone had ever tampered with her body. A lot of reporters have actually come forward and said that they were specifically told not to interview anyone who mentioned murder or that there was any kind of conspiracy going on. And then another strange thing about that night is the tunnel was completely cleaned. Instead of having a forensic crime scene set up, and investigating the crash, they literally hosed it down. They hosed down the tunnel, cleaned it out, and people were able to start using the tunnel again in just a few hours, which alarms me so much. This was Princess Diana. Why try to move it so fast? And it just seemed very, very sketchy. The car was a Mercedes S280. It was the only available car. Apparently this car was actually just stolen and was actually bought by a rental company who gave it to them to drive. And by the research that I've done, there was a microchip that was missing from the car that controlled its braking, its steering, its navigation, not to mention its acceleration as well. Some people think that it was replaced with a remote control that purposely crashed the car. Now let's talk about the different theories, okay? So the French police actually came out and said that the reason that the crash happened was because the driver, Henri Paul, was completely. There were newspaper reports of this, that he was that his blood alcohol levels were extremely high. But a lot of people do not buy this, including his family. They ordered for the blood to be retested, and it came back with pretty much the same results. But the blood also contained and his doctor said that he was never actually prescribed this. So why was this random in his system? Another strange thing about him is that he wasn't actually on duty that night, but he returned just to drive them. So one of the things that Diana's bodyguard does remember is that he thinks he saw a motorbike kind of sitting near them, like at red lights and things like that, like sort of close to them. He recalls this motorbike. According to people who say that they saw this motorbike, he apparently, after the crash happened, got off his bike, looked into the vehicle, and then held up an X. Now I don't know how true this is, but it seems to me like that would be some type of signal, like this happened, we could mission completed. So eyewitness testimonies all talk about this light, that there was a big flash of light in the tunnel before the crash happened. A lot of people think that that's what distracted the driver and that's why he crashed, was this light, this mysterious light. Now that we have talked about most of the information, let's talk about the theory. First theory that I'm going to talk about is the theory that the whole accident was faked by Diana, that she didn't actually die and that her and Dodi ended up living and could finally live their life in peace because they were dealing with so much paparazzi and drama between her and her ex and everything like that. So she faked her own death to be able to get away and finally live like a free life. However, that one is definitely not as widely believed. Another theory is that they weren't actually targeting Diana at all, that they were actually targeting Dodi. People think that he could have been targeted by business enemies of his father. Another key part of this mystery is that Dodi was a Muslim, so that wasn't always like the most accepted thing. A lot of people think that maybe he was targeted so that Diana wouldn't marry him, and that maybe the crash was only meant to kill him. Now, a huge theory that a lot of people have is that Diana was actually killed by like the Secret Service over there. This is the Secret Intelligence Service, or SIS, a British intelligence agency which supplies the British government with foreign intelligence, similar to like our CIA. Richard Tomlinson, who was actually discharged from the secret agency, swore that they were responsible for it. He testified to some major things, claimed that the agency had actually been monitoring Diana since before her death. In the years leading up to the fatal crash, MI6 used a paid informant in the security department of the Ritz Hotel. He concluded that this was Henri Paul. Interestingly enough though, he actually retracted that statement years later. He also claimed that in 1992 he was shown documents of an outline plan to assassinate the Serbian leader, President Slobodan Milosevic, probably not saying that one right, and the plan was almost identical to the way that Diana was in the same way of the tunnel and the flash of light. He testified that a strobe light was going to be used to disorient the driver of the vehicle, ensuring the crash took place in the tunnel, which, you know, has close proximity to walls, so there's like much more of a chance of having an accident in a tunnel, if that makes sense. And he claimed that that was also done because there would be less witnesses in a tunnel to see something like this happen. So if that really was a plan that this agency was doing things like this, then it makes a lot of sense that they just used the same plan for Diana. He also testified that a member of the paparazzi who routinely followed Diana was a member of the UKN, which was a small group that took pictures as paparazzi, like undercover. He was supposed to be doing an interview on NBC, and when he came to the JFK airport here in America, he was arrested and deported by the CIA. And here's another former agent talking about some very interesting things. I'm gonna play this clip for you guys because this kind of blew my mind.
It's proved that there was an MI6 interest in this. And then of course we started looking at the other evidence and all the rest of it. And I have to say, my personal opinion, I think yes, they did intend to at least seriously injure or kill her. And it's not just about the fact that was she pregnant, wasn't she, we'll never know because they embalmed her against all French law. And all the other speculative things you see in the press. It's also the fact that it was reported that she was being a great success in the landmine campaign that she was running. Yes. But also, she was about to go into campaigning on the behalf of the Palestinians. Now, you can imagine someone of Princess Diana's profile doing that. They would not have tolerated it.
The final theory that I'm going to talk about is that it was the royal family themselves that took out Princess Diana.
Since last Sunday's dreadful news, we have seen throughout Britain and around the world an overwhelming expression of sadness at Diana's death.
And this one kind of makes a lot of sense. And I don't mean to offend anyone who like really loves the royal family or anything. This is just from the research that I've done. Many people say that the royal family had a lot of conservative values and that Diana possibly marrying a Muslim man, Dodi Fayed, would be extremely against everything that they would want. A Ritz Hotel staff member even claims that he saw a jeweler go into their hotel room. A bunch of reports that they were going to announce that they were getting engaged. So paparazzi were actually following them a lot because of these rumors. And there was also rumors that she was pregnant. And a lot of people thought that she was either going to announce that she was getting engaged or that she was pregnant and one of the two was coming like the next day. Fayed's father thinks that something sketchy happened. He claims that he knows that they were about to get engaged. He even claims that that day over the phone, she told him she was pregnant. But since her body was embalmed, they were not able to do a pregnancy test on her.
They have my son and Princess Diana.
Now, another interesting bit of information to go along with the theory that the family may have done this. Her butler came out and said that Diana was extremely afraid of Prince Charles. He had given him notes so that they could be kept safely and so no one would take them or find them, and she had trusted her butler with these notes and gave him one of them. And here is one of them that we're not sure was actually written by her or not, but here's what he claims she gave him. You can look up exactly what the whole thing says, but the main point of it that's really important is that this particular phase of my life is the most dangerous. My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure, or serious head injury in order to make the path clear in order to make the path clear for him to marry. Now, no one knows if this is true, but if it is, that's pretty incriminating right there. Her butler has said that she seemed very scared of him and that she told him a lot of things, and that he'd often find her bizarrely like rolling up carpets and looking under furniture to make sure she hadn't been wiretapped or anything like that. And she was also given the same security as the rest of the royal family, but Diana turned it down. Like when the divorce happened, she was able to keep the same security people, and she didn't want to because she knew that anything that she said or did would be reported back to them, so she hired her own bodyguard. I have to say, I don't know much about the royal family and stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sketchy business that goes on in that whole situation, and has for a very long time. I mean, this goes on for years and years and years and years. This family history goes back, and personally, I think there might be some corruption within the family. I mean, it would make a lot of sense to me. Personally, I think there is far more evidence that something sketchy happened, that either it was the government or the secret agency, or that it was the royal family themselves that, you know, ordered this to happen. And so me personally, I think that the least plausible explanation is that it was just a crash that just happened, just a normal traffic crash. All the sketchiness that unfolded after was just chance. I think that is probably the least likely, and that one of these theories is a lot more likely. I would like to say that, as always with these conspiracy theories, I'm not saying any of this is true. I'm just presenting information and letting you guys make your own conclusions. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.